It's not often an indie studio puts out a game that can compete with the AAA titans of open world game design. Many try, but few come close. However, Liquid Swords' debut release, Samson, dropped today on April 8th, and I've got to say, it's not exactly the game that you'd expect. I've been following the development of this game for quite some time, after catching its trailer at the PC Gaming Show. The trailer alone was promising, but the communication from the devs was next level, seriously setting this game up for a massive indie success. It seemed like a really interesting idea, an open world car combat and hand-to-hand fighting game with roguelike mechanics, with 90s action movie inspiration. You play the game as Samson, a lowlife who's in some serious debt with some bad dudes, and in order to pay off the debt, you need to work jobs around the city. The jobs range from beating people up to deliveries to getaway missions. The basic gameplay loop is, you start off the day with a certain amount of debt to pay off, and you can earn money to pay this debt by doing jobs around the city, but you only have so many jobs you can do in one day, so you have to be strategic about which jobs you choose. Wake up, do a job at noon, then it's evening, do a job, then it's night, do a job. It's a great concept and could seriously make for a good solid game. So I couldn't help but feel a little anxious when Liquid Swords randomly announced that Samson was dropping within a week of that announcement. Given how stellar their communication regarding game development was, this made me quite nervous that the game might not be complete and they might be trying to drop the game off ASAP to try and make up some revenue costs to get the game to a better state post-release. Now, I'm not saying this is what they did. The last thing I want to do is cast aspersions on Liquid Swords. They seem to be a great dev team, but I'm just stating my feelings here. And yeah, I was somewhat justified to be worried. This game is super unpolished and half-baked. Its performance is bad. Now, my computer exceeds the recommended specs by quite a lot, and my PC really struggled to maintain a solid 60 FPS, even in the small apartment building at the start of the game. I should not have to use DLSS just to get a relatively stable frame rate, but this game forced me to. And while it does run quite poorly, I can tell there's a lot of beauty being hid behind this barely stable frame rate. It's a real shame that the devs didn't spend more time on optimization. Performance issues aside though, this game may be half finished, but what is complete is quite brilliant. The standout feature of this game, called Tindleston, all I can say in regards to this is wow. This is an amazing city. This is better designed than the majority of AAA open world games. It's more fleshed out, it's got more of an alive feeling, and I know that's a cliche to say that a game's world feels alive, but that's no exaggeration here, for me at least. It seems like no matter where you go in the game, people are having unique conversations and mourning about how miserable it is to live in Tindleston and how awful everyone's life is, and yeah, this place is absolutely miserable, and I love it. This game wears its 90s action movie inspiration on its sleeve. Its sleazy grit just oozes out of the screen, and at times I felt gross walking through some of these alleyways. There's so much trash, graffiti, waste, and just decay all over the city. Every place feels lived in and real, and like somewhere you shouldn't be. I haven't found a single part of the city yet that hasn't received an insane level of care and detail from the devs. Somewhere where the game needed a lot more care from the devs though, is the driving. There's almost no excuse for how the car handles in this game, because it's one of the main experiences in the game, and the entire game is based around driving across the map going job to job. The main issue is turning. It's either so stiff you can barely make a turn on the corner, or it's so loose that you somehow manage to pull off a 180 just trying to follow a bend. I've seen reviews compare this to GTA 4's driving model, but even that outshines Samson. I could forgive this if it wasn't one of the central experiences of the game, but a lot of the missions you need to complete are driving missions.
What a shit show.
The one highlight here though is the really small features that they've added. This game has the ability to kick down to a lower gear, something you can't really do in any action game to my knowledge, and I'm an absolute sucker for being able to ram over cars with like a little boost. Aside from the driving though, the other core experience of this game is the fist fighting, and unfortunately this is where the game drops the ball the most, which is a serious shame because this is what I was most excited for. The animations are really janky. They have this strange look to them, like it's skipping frames at the start, and it's quite difficult to read the animations from the other players to see where the hits are about to come from and if you can parry. This also has the same issue of driving, which is the movement consistency. You're either stood completely still when you're trying to dodge, or you're floating around like a butterfly, and that can be really frustrating when you're trying to fight off multiple people at once. The animation variety here is another main issue as well. It seems there's less than a handful of animations for light and heavy strikes. This ultimately leads to a really, really clunky combat system, which, considering it's the main focus of the game, is unforgivable. The controls is definitely Samson's main issue for me. I can look past the performance if the main game plays well, but just the setup for the controller is strange. You use the right trigger and shoulder to do hits, and you parry with the left shoulder button. And as I said earlier, everything feels jerky and not fluid. The game needs a stronger lock-on system for the hand-to-hand combat, and they need to seriously review the parrying animation. I'm just not even sure what's happening here. Someone tries to punch you in the head, so you just push him away. With all that in consideration, is Samson worth playing? Well, the game is £20 or $25, and it's really hard to indicate what kind of value you should be getting out of a game at that price point, but personally, I'm not sure it's worth it at the moment. The game desperately needs some more optimization and a control rework, especially for the driving. The story here is fine, but this is a roguelike game, so the story does not take center anywhere. I would probably recommend this game once it's had a couple more updates, when the game runs better, and when there's a bit more content to the game. So ultimately, I do not recommend Samson.